Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to VALORANT News, and with the North American main events coming to a close this weekend, one final match remaining. Babybay from FaZe had a few words to say for TenZ from the Sentinels side, not waking up for scrims in time. Does this echo what's still said and ShahZaM responded to just a few days ago? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Really upside the channel, thank you very much indeed for doing that one. First of all, just wanted to say this, because everyone knows Chamber's crazy right now, and potentially changes coming, who knows. There was a patch yesterday, I thought they might even mention Chamber. Hasn't really happened as of yet, but EMEA over here from VALORANT Champions Tour, they do an entire, video on top 5 craziest Chamber plays, which, no real surprise given its prevalence at the present time in, of course, all regions. There was a patch yesterday, though. The patch wasn't particularly significant. A few things changed. This actually clutch meet we'll see here in a second, but loads of agent bug fixes, as you guys can see, like, fixing all sorts of bugs all across the board, honestly. So yeah, something's changing, but nothing major, it must be said. This I thought was kind of cool, that you can now have a keybind in your settings, controls, communication, where when you're playing and you're in a clutch situation, you can just mute your teammates by pressing a button. So it's not necessarily just for clutching, but like, obviously if your teammates are talking over you, can get a bit annoying. So you just press a button, mute everyone else. I thought was kind of a cool idea here. This also the new map, which is, will come into the game at some point or another. We've heard rumors it's going to be maybe in Lisbon, like in Portugal, of course. Some have been theorizing what it might look like, what the kind of special features of the map might be, but apparently the code name is Pit. People were saying it's going to look like this. The Halo 3 map, I believe this is called The Pit. So like, new leak screenshot of this one just dropped. So we'll see about that one, of course. Now, this is another thing that was added to the game. The, the Zeno Hunter Phantom, which, it looks like this. People have been wondering, okay, why are they adding skins like this? Or a little bit confused about it, because I'm not really sure what this heartbeat sensor does. I can't imagine it's in any way pay to win. But like, as Derek says, it looks an awful lot like the heartbeat sensor for back in Modern Warfare 2, right? You can see this thing pulsing out and about. Like, I'm not sure if it actually shows enemies. Maybe it does, but only enemies that you can see, is at least what I'm guessing it is, right? Because there's no way you're going to be able to use this to get enemies behind the wall. Surely they wouldn't be able to do that in the game. But it does look an awful lot like an ACR suppressed with the heartbeat sensor from back in the day. Some people are saying, okay, adding an iPad to my gun isn't going to make me want to buy it. It's more like the finishing moves and stuff like this that make these skins cool. But there was a fair bit of talk about this actually, so I do wonder what happens here going forwards, because just the fact that you've got a heartbeat sensor on your gun seems rather interesting. I don't know if there's going to be any potential advantage to this, or whether, as Ethan says, people are going to have to start rocking Cold-Blooded Pro to get away from it. But I thought it was rather interesting. Definitely treat you with respect on that one in the comment section below. Let's talk real quick again on the franchising side in the EMEA region. So rumor had it yesterday that apparently former Fnatic player Magnum will be joining Koi. No rumors yet on who exactly is going to leave, but Koi is one of those rosters or organizations that is rumored to have been to be part of the upcoming franchise ecosystem. Now, this is what Bodork says last night. We looked at this yesterday for the kind of Asia Pacific region, which organizations he believes will get a spot over there. He's done the same thing here for EMEA, and I thought it was really interesting, his reasoning behind this, saying that look, franchising is not about the rosters, it's about the organizations and their long-term commitment to VALORANT. You might have the #1 team in the world, but might not get in as an organization if your financials and marketing is absolutely terrible. So this is the list he comes up with. Now, you'll notice quite keenly here that Ascend, for example, M3 Champions, right, they don't even have an organization, right, but you know what I mean. Like, they're not noted here. We've got Liquid, Fnatic, G2, FPX, OG. They've been making this push up with OG London United, and the team might not be good, but it's not about how good the team is right now. It's more about the future of the organization, their kind of investment into VALORANT long term, their commitment to VALORANT, which they have shown. So right, more than likely might go down that direction. Mad Lions, BBL, Carmine Corp as well, Koi, Na'Vi, those are his kind of top 10, and then contenders being Big, Giants, FUT, and Vitality as well. So we'll see on this one, right? But this is kind of his idea for which organizations might get involved. Of course, crucially mentioning Ascend isn't even there. He finds it very unlikely this all gets a spot because they're still part of Raise Your Edge. Effectively, Riot is seemingly not keen on organizations that have had success through crypto or gambling sponsors. So any organizations like that don't necessarily have potentially the longevity, despite how good their current team might be, might not get involved in future seasons, right? So he's gone for a few different reasons here. Team Liquid, Fnatic, G2, no-brainers. FPX will probably definitely get a spot. BBL's the most stable organization in Turkey, right? Good track record. Footballist as well is another idea. Mad Lions, right? So look, there's a few interesting reasons here that some of these teams might get a spot. And there's of course some that might be different to what he's actually put on the list. But I think it's honestly rather interesting how a lot of these organizations, despite what things might look like with regard to their current roster, are going to be very different next season. A lot of these top players are going to have to move around, right? That's kind of the key point here, is that you might have a great team. If your organization doesn't get in, your players are going to have to move around. It's like, look, if Sentinels don't get a spot in the North American League, which is possible, then yes, we know already that team needs changes already. But still changes will be forced, and if those players want to keep competing, they will have to actually move to other organizations. Is that, well, a very likely possibility right now, and it's probably going to happen almost certainly in EMEA and other regions as well. Speaking of the North American side, I thought this is kind of funny actually here from Nadeshot, officially hiring, must be comfortable on camera, TikTok culture, that type of stuff. And Vanity says, DMs want to get involved, right? Because of course they're out of the playoffs, Cloud9. They should be okay. They will be okay to make it at least to the last chance qualifier, so they've got that on the horizon. But yeah, no playoffs for Cloud9, no Masters 2 for Cloud9, and they do play their final match up against Sentinels in just a couple of days' time. Of course, as TenZ lost against FaZe 0-2. That was a massive series for them. If they'd have won this one, they'd have still been in with a shout, of course, if they beat Cloud9 of qualifying for the playoffs. Didn't happen though. They threw away the Haven, of course. They had Rorgus in the team instead of Sick. Unfortunate situation. Zoms said he wanted to play, but they effectively denied him. And as TenZ says, season over for us, feels bad, man. That's been plenty of talk. Like we talked about it a couple of days ago. Like, are Sentinels out of the LCQ? Are they in the LCQ? They have a fair few points, and no one really seems to be sure right now on whether they're actually going to make it or not. So I think we'll just see how things play out, because some people say they can still make it, some people will say they most certainly can't make it, but I feel like they should be in with a reasonable shout of making it into the top 10 in North America to still have a chance at the LCQ. But they seem to believe their season is over for the rest of the year, which of course is pretty frustrating for them. And this is Babybay says last night that was rather spicy. Wake up, my brother, we got scrims at TenZ official. Lots of likes on this one, effectively saying, look, TenZ is still in bed, we've got scrims matches scheduled here, because of course FaZe played Sentinels last week. They're still trying to practice, to put themselves in a good position, right, to make it through to the playoffs. FaZe certainly want to be able to do that. They still can do that. Not the case, unfortunately, with Sentinels anymore. And that's what I wonder from the Sentinels side. Like, if they think their season is over, then what incentive do they really have to get on and scrim? If TenZ isn't up on time for these scrim matches they have scheduled, obviously, there's all this talk about in esports in general about players not turning up on time and scrims getting cancelled because players can't wake up and stuff like this. And of course, this has actually been a big topic of discussion with Sentinels the last few weeks or so, and maybe TenZ has kind of been the key culprit in that sense. At the same time, if you are Sentinels, what do you really have to fight for at this point? You can understand the frustration from them, but of course, if you've scheduled a scrim against another team, you are obligated to actually get up on time and play it, right? Well, you're not obligated, but it's just a good thing to do in general. Now, this actually was kind of a key comment that Steel made a few days ago on this kind of matter, right? Saying that Sentinels don't care as much, way too many hours logged on stream, and when they do have scrims, not everyone is awake for those scrims, so they have to cancel them. We looked at this clip a few days ago. Steel wasn't happy with this kind of being the only clip that was mentioned from the interview, which, is fair enough. He talked about a load of interesting things, but this was certainly the most interesting, so it's going to be the thing that's going to get talked about, to be honest. But ShahZaM actually responded to this and said the following. First of all, he said, this tweet that since got deleted, everyone making up numbers, why are people angry at me streaming this type of stuff? But then he says this kind of in comments that, people kind of not making up on time for scrims. He says, we had one player during stage 1 that was going through a lot of personal serious stuff, had trouble sleeping. It's true we cancelled 2 or 3 scrims during that period because of him. That hasn't happened in stage 2. The org was involved to help him and also keep him accountable. So maybe given these comments on Babybay, this might have been talking about TenZ, right? The kind of player that was going through personal stuff, had trouble waking up on time. That might have been indicating TenZ, given what we've seen here from Babybay. And look, in the coming days, Sentinels, they're currently 0-4. They play Cloud9. Both of these teams, I believe, are going to be chalked for the playoffs. FaZe are through regardless, but of course, they've still got to try and fight for seeding, just because they don't want to start 4th in this group, because if you go 4th in the group, then you actually start in losers brackets at the playoffs, which of course puts you at a disadvantage compared to the other top teams that start in the winner's side. It's like FaZe, of course, they want to be in a good spot. They want to get some practice in against teams like Sentinels that they've already played, so make sure they're best prepared. You can understand Sentinels, maybe if they have to cancel the scrim, they're probably not going to care too much about it. But from the perspective of professional courtesy, it's probably something that should be okay. And we see this all across esports, really, players not waking up on time and stuff, and clearly Babybay not happy about TenZ not turning up on time to this one. But yeah, very much intrigued to your perspective in the comment section below. Interesting to me that Sentinels are still scheduling scrims, to be honest, because I thought they might have just chalked it up at this point and just play Cloud9 and whatever, because look, there's still some pride on the line. If they beat Cloud9, people will be like, okay, what would have been, what could have been with this team, with this organization. But if they do make it to the LCQ, I kind of doubt that, this will be the roster they actually go with, right? The Sinatraa question is still kind of looming there in the air as well. Let's dive in then into what actually might go on for the remainder of this week. This is where Sentinels sit right now, 11th overall in terms of round win, round loss percentage. Crazy really how the fact that they've only won 1 map, but they actually sit not the worst in the league, or not the worst in challenges in terms of overall round win percentage. They've actually won a lot of rounds, but just can't close out maps, unfortunately for them. This does actually make the series between the Guard and NRG very exciting. Look how close these two teams are. They play each other for, the potential to actually go through to playoffs. If, whoever wins between these two teams goes to playoffs, whoever loses certainly does not. This thanks to Weltis Games once again. These are some really interesting stats as well that I thought we would look at right here from Willminder. The 5v4 and 4v5 round conversion rate of some of these teams. Interestingly enough, 100 Thieves leads both of these categories. This is a pretty key one to me, and Sentinels are actually quite good here as well. But when you have a 5 versus 4 advantage, closing out those rounds is incredibly important. When you get first blood, if you can win 80+% of rounds where you get first blood, that is incredibly important. Thieves seem to be incredibly disciplined here. Like 33 out of 39 times they win in that situation. That is very impressive. Like other teams in a similar ballpark. NRG though, done at only 60%. Like out of 50 times that's happened to them, only 29 times they win. That's way lower than really anyone else in the league. And in 4v5, 100 Thieves lead this one as well. Out of 48 times they've lost the first blood, they still win 31% of those rounds. So that's the thing. If you can win 85% of rounds where you get first blood and 30% of rounds that you don't, you're going to win an awful lot of series. Again, NRG though are down here, and notably FaZe. I thought that these numbers are actually remarkably low, right, from FaZe. Out of 53 times that they've been first blooded, they've only won 8 of those rounds, which seems rather low. Of course, maybe the other team's just not making any mistakes, but you know, still, it seems like a bit of a problem for them. 25+% seems relatively respectable, but very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button, tell us your YouTube gods, this is a good video, others like you should see it as well, and upgrade the competitive Valorant community. Thank you as always, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.